Happy Text Adventure Thursday. Happy Book Club. How's everybody doing today? Oh, hi, Feathers Flight, Monkey Klinsky, Green Thing LP, Chandra Vita G, Dark of Nate, Detective Zen, Aleph Sharp, Are You Fling? Post-Dad cheered! On this date, 5 years ago, Thursday, March 5th, 2015, the 48-hour Lupus charity stream began. Wow. I can't believe that was 5 years ago. Thank you for that reminder. What a good memory. I had been at Geek and Sorority almost 2 years at that point. Feathers Flight just restarted for 29 months. So many enthusiastic months. Thank you. Is that right? That sounds wild. Glenn loves the quilt background. Dark of Night just restarted for 27 months. Welcome to the Thursday Club. Hope you enjoyed C2E2. I had a wonderful time. So yeah, welcome, new background. This was... She doesn't know that she was helping me solve this problem, but this was a gift from my mom that might, if we get the hang of it, be our new book background. Detective Zen just restarted for 14 months. I can't think of anything clever to say, so I'm just going to say, ah! Fair enough. Jeff, I'm just restarted for almost 30 months. For 30 months. I don't know why I said almost. It's hard to believe. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I love it. I hope you guys like it. I figure this way we can keep changing the books up but have something stable for the background. My Geek Linsky just resubbed for 16 months. That's like a year and a bit, and all of it's been enjoyable. As always, thanks, Amy, and thanks, chat. Mostly y'all, I just have to say. Aleph Sharp just resubbed and hit 2 years! Mug book! 2 years. I can't really express just how much y'all have meant and continue to mean to me, so all I'll say is 2 years of the best community I've ever been a part of, 2 years of fantastic interest in all sorts of literature that I've never read or loved. Oh, I'm so happy. Last Guy 2 is on a 13-month streak. 13 months, yahoo! And yay for book club! And an anonymous gifter is throwing a book fair. Okay, we're starting off with a hype train. Every class just resubbed for 4 months on this anonymous book fair. Please throw books in chat for book fair. We're going to welcome back Goblin Wars, 9 months, Tethered Raven, Zodlander, and Trappy Jenkins, all in this anonymous book fair. Just so a reminder of how hype trains work. While this is going, which is 4.5 more minutes, if you donate, if you send 100 bits or... sub or gift a sub. Anonymous just gave a gift to Tethered Raven. You will be in the pool of people that at the end of this is going to get some kind of cute train emote. And the different emotes available will depend on how far this hype train goes. I'm a little rusty. I miss y'all. C2E2 was a wonderful time. I got to talk to a bunch of great people and do some fun stuff with DC. But it's good to be home. Trappy Jenkins just hit 3 months. Enjoy your extra books. Sir Tony says, Amy, we missed you. This is how we say welcome back. Game Director says, I love that this has given people a reason to read their first comic. Who's reading their first comic? Tetzel that's cheered. Hype for book club. No pressure. It's a wonderful thing. If that's you, I'm so glad. Fifth Daughter just stays up for 11 months. Post-Status is gifting 5 subs. Thank you for the book fair, Post-Status. Glenn 2Ns, Johnny Zoo, The Octopoda, JRC Roller, and Chrono Travis. Thank you so much. Star Pilot 6 just hit 18 months. Woot hype. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. An extra account gifted a tier sub to JRoby1970. I'm just going to read them out of order. There we go. Here it is. Thank you so much. Welcome to the Enthusi Army. We have wonderful sub badges and emotes made by our own meaning of night. We have a beautiful community-run Discord. We have the nicest people on the net, and we have a lot of books to talk about. LH Saber cheered. Book hype. Thank you. John Noah says, hi, Amy. The stream was muted while I was busy in Discord. Welcome. Please throw books at our new Enthusi Army members. Down Under Dwarf says, this is my first comic, and it's awesome. I'm so excited. You are starting off with a bang. Johnny, you just resubbed for 4 months. Dark of Nate sent bits and says, I don't know what order these things are going to come in, so I'm just going to do my best. Dark of Nate was hyped for my first Emerald City, but now I'm hyped to avoid spreading plague. Oh well, always next year. It is such a bummer. Emerald City is one of my favorite shows. I won't be there this year, and I know a lot of people are missing it for health reasons and safety reasons, and no one wants to have to make that call. But Postatus just gave a gift to JRC Roller. But much love to the people who are going and the people who've had to change their plans. It's tough for everybody, and we're obviously all crossing our fingers for a safe and happy future for those going and those staying. Postatus just gave a sub to Chrono Travis. I am certainly hoping to be back there next year. It is, again, one of my favorite shows. Gamer Badger cheered and said, missed you too. And Tatsu this is sending distracting hype. I'm just reading them out of order now. Detective Zen sends bits and says, show love by hurling heavy objects at people. Oh, thank you, Dark of Nate. John Numa says, not my first comic, but I think this is my first DC or Marvel, so well done, Amy comic. Yay, big two. Tatsu this cheer, distracting hype. There we go. Aleph Sharp says, the rest of the 2-year message, 2 years of Mass Effect, of King's Quest, of tabletop RPGs and comics, most importantly, 2 years, thank you, Detective Zen, of the best friends I've ever had, of acceptance and love, 2 years of being a part of the Enthusi Army, and to hopefully many more. Y'all, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you, Aleph Sharp. Oh my gosh, the hype train is still rolling forward. We've completed level 2. Let's see how much time is left in that one. 4.5 more minutes to see if we make it to level 3. Feathers Flight cheered, text adventure hype. Obscure Zipling says, we're hurling comics today, so less heavy. They might be comics, yeah. They got stars on them. We're in space. Postatus cheered. And I do know that next weekend when Emerald City was scheduled to take place, a lot of people are planning on doing a lot of signal boosting for artists who could use a boost, who are attending or were planning to attend the con. Down Under Dwarf is gifting a sub to Shadows of Life. Welcome to the Enthusi Army. Mikey Glinsky says, quick shout out to stay healthy and wash your hands. Listen to the scientists. Be as safe as you can. Respect the choices other people have to make. And good luck to all of us. Tatsu this just gave a gift sub to Folk91 and Mazio. Mikey Glinsky says this is their first Green Lantern in any case. And Chandra says if you are still going to ECCC, please shop at your favorite artist booth. They will need all the help they can get. Absolutely. Anonymous just gave a gift sub to Jersey Girl Liz. Welcome. All right. Mikey Glinsky says, not my first comic, but it's still not a very large category for me, so it's still fun. Meaning Bites says, this is my first Green Lantern story as well. All right, now don't be thrown off. My book is going to have a different cover than everybody else's because this is Far Sector #1 with the alternate cover by Jamie McKelvey, which I picked up just because I love Jamie McKelvey. Anonymous just giving us a Mugete. We have 3 minutes left in this hype train, and we are 16% of the way through level 3. Thank you so much. Gamer Batcher, first Green Lantern. Excellent. Meaning of Night. It says, not related to this story, but I love the Batman Snickers ad in this issue, where Dick Grayson and Congresswoman Barbara Gordon are at the disco, and Clayface takes over the DJ station. And when it's all said and done, Batgirl asks Batman to join them on the dance floor, and he says, sorry, Batgirl, but I saved my best moves for fighting crime. Ads and comics can be very, very funny. Dark of Night cheered! Hyped you have the same alt cover I do. Ari Flame says, first comic from that I remember, Green Lantern. Sarah Tony says, I got paid for a project today, so I need to find a commission artist. Ooh. Dark of Nate says, this is honestly a really good jumping on point for superhero comics since you don't have to know anything about Green Lanterns. Sharama says, as a perennial Marvel fanboy, this was my first DC in a long, long time. You know me. You know that I have said for years, I love Marvel, I love DC, I love the indies. There's a book out there for every reader, and I love when they try new things. And occasionally, when you try something a little out of the box, you get something incredible. So, for instance, you reach out to one of the most acclaimed living novelists in science fiction and fantasy, N.K. Jemisin, a.k.a. Nora Jemisin, who, by the way, you should all follow on Twitch, and artist Jamal Campbell, who, for me at least, has burst onto the scene in a blaze of glory, not to at blaze of glory, as the artist of Naomi, which was launched around this time last year with a brand new character to the DC Universe. So 2 brand new characters to the DC Universe that Jamal Campbell has helped introduce and create and design, who are 2 of my faves. So please continue that track record and make every book unbelievable. Alice Sharp says, this is nowhere near my first DC or Lantern comic, but I've only read 2 issues and she's already my 3rd favorite Lantern and climbing after Jessica Cruz and DeCurtier. Here's the thing about Green Lanterns. They have amazing names. Leia Sky says, my first Green Lantern. Yay! Aria Flame says, I'm aware of the basics. Detective Zen says, yay for the greenest lantern. Sarah Tony says, okay. This is my first DC superhero comic ever. I'm a Ride or Die Image fan. Mikey Glinsky asks if Vertigo is considered DC. For me, always. But you could say non-Vertigo DC comic if it's your first. All right. So, this book came out in the fall. We are just doing... Hype Train succeeded! Yay! Level 2 Hype Train. Thank you so much. You all let me keep doing this, and it means so much to me. Thank you so much. Yes, if I could get a caster command for N.K. Jemisin, please. She's won every award, and she deserves your follow as well. Sonia FX is now following. Thank you. Let's start with the absolute most superficial concerns, and I'm down with them, because as Gamer Badger 82 says, I'm loving her style and outfit. Those glasses. This is an incredible superhero design. Detectives Zen cheered. As general advice, comics are much easier to read when they're out of the box. Thank you, Meaning of Night. I love the design of our hero. This book is called Far Sector. Now, that's a beautiful name, and it's very evocative. It's the far away. Green Lanterns are a part of DC history that goes back to the World War II era, but is most defined by the second Green Lantern, the Silver Age Green Lantern. Quick reminder on comics. American comics as we know them really came into existence in the late 1930s, early 40s. A bunch of our most famous superheroes were invented in that initial burst. We refer to that now as the Golden Age. Superheroes fell out of fashion to a large extent. Science fiction comics did pretty well, but like westerns and romance and horror comics specifically were huge in the mid-50s. But for a lot of complicated reasons, some of those those tastes changed back. Some of the genres were getting shut down by attention from parents and concern trolls. That's a whole nother episode. But they reached back around to superheroes, and a second wave of explosive creativity hit comics that is known as the Silver Age. It is widely considered to have been kicked off by the new version of The Flash at DC, introduced in 1956. It really gets going in the early 60s with the Justice League, with our boy Hal Jordan becomes Green Lantern. Over at Marvel, they are having a Marvel Revolution, creating many of the most famous characters of comics of all time, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, the Avengers, etc. So that version of Green Lantern essentially cemented what we think of as Green Lanterns, which are space cops, more or less. An intergalactic or intersystem agency of peacekeeping and negotiation centered on a planet called Oa that was created by the Guardians, where folks have Green Lantern rings, which are powered generally by willpower, by concentration, strength of mind, fearlessness. It depends on your specific incarnation. But they allow you to make constructs. You have a magic ring that lets you make things with your mind. It's not actually magic, I'm just saying that. Generally, that can translate for you, can allow you to fly. It is usually charged by a power battery. Earth is in Space Sector 2814, so we have an assigned Green Lantern to the area of space we're in. We're Earth, so we tend to have like 7 because comics like to be complicated. And because everybody likes Green Lanterns. But in this issue, in Far Sector, I don't, and y'all, please let me know, but I don't think you need to know any of that to start reading Far Sector number 1. The iconography here will be instantly recognizable if you do know what Green Lanterns are, but if not, you just know she's a space cop. She's a space cop who is not from here. She has been assigned to an area where there has not been a murder in 500 years. Now let's talk about this this area that she is assigned to. It is far outside the jurisdiction. Far, that's all you really need to know. She is in a place called the City Enduring. I'm going to skim comments so far. Feathersflight says there's a literal episode on that. Yeah. Shadows of Life says, not my first DC or Green Lantern, my first ongoing DC comic. Meaning Bright says, she's so cool about N.K. Jemisin. Completely accurate. Green Thing LP says, Lensman gave way to GLs who gave way to Jedi. There's an interesting tradition of imagining these structures through the 20th century. Mikey Linsky says, the look is like Blade Runner, but through the filter of Flash Gordon sci-fi. It's weird, and I am down. Triama says, intergalactic planetary? Planetary, intergalactic. John Numa says, yeah, so Exio from Clear Skies is a Green Lantern is what I'm hearing. Starpilot 6 says, it's not actual magic, it's just sufficiently advanced technology. A reference to the wonderful, is it Arthur Clarke quote? Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Meaning of Night says, I like her sort of military tailcoat, even though she's like, do I know anything about being a cop? Not exactly. Am I doing it anyway? Yeah, I guess so. Darkham Nate says, for some reason there are 30 GLs from Earth. We just like more characters. John Numa says, yeah, this issue seemed to exist well completely on its own. Hugianus is now following. Thank you. John Numa confirms this issue seems to exist well completely on its own. Oh, no, I just read that one. Mikey Glisky, nope, total noob here, can confirm. Meaning of Night reiterates, not a single violent crime in 500 years. Star Pilot 6 is asking a clarifying question. This Green Lantern's first appearance is in this series, or has she appeared elsewhere? She first appears here. Everything about this world is original, so far at least, is original to Far Sector. Created by N.K. Jemisin and Jamal Campbell. Except for the Green Lantern stuff that we are reading into it from what we already know. Totsalus has a great question that we'll get to in a bit about a little bonus thing that came along when she made one of her constructs, which are those Green Lantern creations. It's one of those great convention comics that usually everything they make with the ring is just green, so you can tell which bits they've added. But her making chairs for herself and the police chief in this issue is one of my favorite Green Lantern uses. Just being like, oh, no chairs for us, huh? All right. Making them with my mind. It's rearranging the space using willpower, but literalized into making a chair at the table for yourself. Mikey Glinsky says the first panels are literally neon-soaked streets in the rain, but on a retro-futuristic space station. Triamis got kind of Halo Jones vibes from the setting and its look and feel. That's an 80s sci-fi comic written by Alan Moore. Arya Flame says, we get some hints she's not a standard lantern. We know that she is outside of the normal jurisdiction for sure. Alright, so here's how this series opens. A man who makes trouble for others is also making it for himself. Shinwa Akebe, Things Fall Apart. I might be pronouncing that wrong. If you don't need to have read any particular book to appreciate things, but I will take a sidebar here to say I was lucky enough to read Things Fall Apart in college. It is an incredible book. I am not the first person to say that. It is Truly, though, an incredible book. BB Fan just reset for 30 months. Super stoked for this series. Mikey Glinsky says, so far, all the wider knowledge of Green Lantern backstory lore seems to be in the realm of fun Easter eggs for longtime readers and aren't required for understanding the story. I am a strong advocate for doing required reading because I've generally been lucky enough to have really interesting stuff, rewarding stuff assigned to me. But I will say, there's no obligation ever to love something that comes highly recommended. But I have found in my personal experience that when you sit down with one of these books that's universally acclaimed, a lot of times you find something great. That's not every time, and not every book is for every person. But often you will find there is a reason that many, many people love something. And it can be super, super fun. Okay. So there's my pitch. All right. 2 little problems with that quote applied to this situation. Also, very much Saga vibes of like, oh, what are the rules of this word from this opening page, which looks like a broken wing and a hand with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fingers, 2 of which are thumbs. My impressed sympathies to Jamal Campbell for having to draw even weirder hands than regular hands, which artists tell me, and which I would imagine, are already the worst thing. What if hands, but more? G. Banks says, my favorite book is Far Sector by Jemison and Campbell. Not sure if anyone has ever heard of it. You are in the right place. New friend. All right. 2 problems with the quote. Not always. Wait, just reset for 5 months. Happy sub dance. Hey. Thank you. In this case, the trouble isn't just mano a mano. Whole city's going to feel this. Second, I'm the one causing the trouble just by existing. But what else is new? I have a lot of questions. Space sector, some number nobody ever bothered to tell me. Far sector. We're on page 2, and we already know why we're here. The farthest of the Guardians, those are the Guardians of Oa who established the Green Lantern Corps, 3,600 sectors. Maybe farther. Maybe it doesn't have a number. Platform Ever Forward. Yes, that's a name. Y'all, we are going to have so much fun with the naming conventions in this book. Can you believe that I was like, I don't know if we'll have enough to talk about only doing the first issue, and actually we're going to need 700 years to talk about all of this because every line and every verbal line and every artistic line are worth their own discussion. Yes, as Sir Antonio points out, can we talk about how pretty the art is? Jamal Campbell is doing... So an artist has a lot of jobs. An artist is the actors. They need to be expressive. They need to convey emotion. They need to use body language to tell the story. They are the casting directors. They decide what everybody looks like and make sure that they fit their parts and communicate visually. They are the costume designers. They decide how character is informed by aesthetics, how to make sure different characters stand out from each other, how to communicate elements of story and world, and also have something that you can draw. And, maybe even cosplay. They are the set decorators and production designers. They decide what the elements in any room should be. They decide what the chairs look like, the imaginary green chairs look like. They decide what the sky should look like. They decide what the backdrop should be. And obviously the writers to different extent participate in a lot of these processes. I know that a lot of times they come up with character concepts together. They design the looks of things with mutual input. So I'm not trying to take away any credit from writers on this. But a comic book artist, in combination with the writer who they're sharing ideas back and forth with, literally designs the whole world. In this case, it is a world made up of floating platforms that combine millions of miles apart into one unbelievably huge city with 3 completely different alien races living in it with their own internal relationships. that needs to feel huge and busy and lived in and varied, but visually clear and striking. They also, depending, some writers will say what kind of different teams work differently. Some folks will say, oh, this panel should be a close-up of somebody's face while they're saying these words, and then we should get a look at the whole room. Other folks will say, on this page they're having an argument in a room, here's what the argument is about, and the artist will decide, the camera is up in the corner and we're looking down at them to convey how paranoid we are, or we're looking up at them to convey that they're intimidating. Different people will break down those jobs differently, but either way, the artist ultimately is placing that camera and showing you everything in frame. Comics! How does anyone do them? They seem so hard. It helps when you got a couple of geniuses. Gamer Badger has a great question. Do you think it's an unreliable narrator, as it seems to be her, our main character's inner monologue, rather than classic black box narration? Now, caption boxes. One of my favorite things. Comic books have changed over time. It used to be very, very common to have thought bubbles, where characters were like, he doesn't seem trustworthy, in a thought bubble over their head with a little puffy cloud, kind of was the convention for presenting that. A smooth oval line generally meant said out loud, and a puffy one meant thought in your head. Olive Sharp cheered! And if you're at Alan Moore, you spend 10 pages of all capitals text for the first page of 5 panels with no text. Like I said, everybody's balance is different. But it has become more common in the last 2 decades, rather than having thought bubbles, to use captions. Now, captions can tell you where you are. Hold on. There we go. Where you are, time and space. They can establish things about a scene, or they can contain someone's narration. We are getting what appear to be narration caption boxes here, as beautifully set off with a little lantern symbol, showing you that that's the Green Lantern. Let me give some credit to, that is probably the work of our letterer. Where are my credits? Lettering is by Deron Bennett. In this case, art and color are all by Jamal Campbell. That is, used to be pretty unusual. It's a little more common these days, but an artist who does their own, it used to be pencils and then inks over the pencils and then color added to the inks. In this case, the artist and color are being entirely done by Jamal Campbell. Yikes, that's so much work. Wow. But lettering by Deron Bennett, who's probably the one who gave us this beautiful convention that we know who is speaking by the shape of these boxes. They're green, they're transparent, so they remind us of a Green Lantern construct. They've got a little chip out of the side. Liz Doodles just resubbed for 11 months. Hi, Amy. Hi. Mikey Glinsky points out that Sandman did some really good stuff with lettering and text bubbles. Worth a check out. That's Todd Klein, the legendary letterer, along with all the other reasons to check out Sandman. Fair. So we have these green, semi-transparent looking boxes for Green Lantern narration, opening with a little symbol in the corner. So we have a lot of ways to feel like we're hearing her voice when we see that, which, because comics are, in this case, visual, we need. So establishing voice is tough in something without GM for Life just reset for 13 months. Yay, comics! Thank you! You don't have the benefit of a completely text, everything is in one person's voice and perspective narrative. And you don't have the benefit of literal sound. So you have to establish voice via what this person chooses to say, and in this case, some very helpful lettering choices. I also can't say for sure who made the calls on adding, like, the presentation there. I'm going to guess it's Deron Bennett. Now, the first non-main character voice we hear in this, actually the first out loud spoken dialogue, does not come from our narrator here. It comes from this police person with her. Can't remember if we get a name there. I'd heard, but didn't believe. Now, this font looks a little bit different. This box has sort of a lightning-looking jagged edge to it. And it's got chips out of the corner, so it's a heavily geometric-looking. Instead of a smooth oval, it is an 8-sided kind of rectangular shape. There's words for things. It's not an even octagon, but it's got 8 sides because there's chips out of each corner. Now, as we're going to learn when we meet our 3 alien races, that is the sort of digital species. So we're getting a hint of how that might sound from the sort of suggestion of electricity and geometric regularity, and the slightly different font here. I love this. Y'all, I'm having so much fun. Skimming through comments because I'm real excited today. I keep zooming back in instead of, I should have kept better notes on this. Yeah, not Susan, the peacekeeper who's at the scene with Joe. Is who I'm thinking of. Okay. So, all of this is to say, there's been a crime. I'm kind of getting real focused on all the details around it, but there's been a crime in a place where there hasn't been a violent crime in 500 years, and that's a real problem. The first murder in 500-ish years means we're all going to have to improvise, I'm guessing. So our main character is sort of trying to improvise police procedure for a violent crime in a place that doesn't have any set rules for this. I love this as the beginning of a series because it is a jumping on point. Something unusual has happened. It should not have happened here. As we come to understand why it's unusual and what they're going to do about it, we get to watch a bunch of people that we're meeting as they react to these extreme circumstances and get to know them and their world via this exceptional event. It's almost like N.K. Jemisin's real good at making stories. Why you so good? Our first official one. So Antonio points out that the beginning of this episode feels very noirish. And it's classic. It is a classic murder mystery structure. There's been a murder. Why? How? Who done it? What does it mean? In this case, they found some ways to make this structurally a very unusual murder. But there's something super classic about opening with a dead body. You can't argue with the classics. All right. So, from the crime scene, which I love, this 2 pages, we've talked before about how you want to have an emotional reason to turn a page. A page turn in comics is very important. And when you can, you want to land something that makes you really need to keep going right at the bottom, right at the point of a page turn. Now, in this case, because we open with what's called a splash page, everything on one page, a splash page of a dead body and a moving quote, and which leads into, there's 2 problems with that in this specific thing. It's a nice reason to turn a page. The next one, in this crazy looking sci-fi atmosphere with this person with this cool poncho and neat glasses and what's going on here, and there's cities and flying cars, all of that is instantly grounded by the final words on this opening page turn. What I do know is when forensics is done and you're sure of the ID, notify the next of kin. It's the personal angle that gets you to turn that next page. It's intellectually very interesting that there has been a murder, but also on a very real level, a person is dead, and other people will be affected by that. Murder is not just a fun mystery hook. It is something that robs someone of life. It is serious. It is human, no matter what species we're talking about here, and that matters. And as you've been drawn right back down to that most personal of someone else is going to hear about this, and that matters, you zoom all the way out for 2 pages of glorious, glorious, beautiful space action. It's going to take us the rest of our lives to get through this, huh? Mikey Glinsky says the classic noir opening does help anchor this fantastical setting, introducing something normal readers to latch onto. As Gamer Badger 82 says, dead body in the rain. Obsequious Diphthong says, this is the good old why done it. Greetings and salutations. John Newman says, that's an awesome detail about the end of the page. I'm glad I switched to 2-page view in the digital version when I read. I'd like to think the story works either way. We're at an interesting transformation point in comics where not everyone is obviously reading on paper. So reading digitally, one hopes that the effect remains. You can see, I hope, in most presentations that this is just literally physically larger. Space is bigger than the small panels we just saw. Mikey Glinsky says, incomplete hexagonal tiled Dyson sphere! So we know that our hero is here to help the city's 20 billion citizens. And we get just an incredible line, because I'm pretty sure it won't be the last time somebody dies ugly in the city enduring. Which is just so, such beautiful language. Feels good to say, feels good to read, feels good to hear in your head. So that's it. That's our opening couple of pages for Far Sector. We have a murder. We have the personal angle. We have a mystery of why she's here and why she would say that her presence is a problem. We can tell that she's not from here. And it's going to take some getting used to. And we've seen the beautiful scope of space. So now we get into it. But we get into it via procedural actions. Here's the next steps. Via a detective walking us through a murder case. Like we've seen a million times before, but nothing like we've seen a million times before. As Gamer Badger 82 says, nom 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 language. As Detective Zen says, space is big. Really big. Alright. Dark of Nate says also kind of calls to mind the Valerian setting, i.e. City of a Thousand Worlds. There's a lot of really smart European sci-fi, that in comics especially, that cross-influenced Green Lanterns over time. Dark of Nate says, lol, and then we turn the page to the Snickers ad. Yeah! Ads can really break up the mood, but also charming in their own way. These next pages, we get a just lore. What I love, I found for me, you can roll through this lore pretty easily because you're following someone solving a murder, and everything else is just clues, right? Gathering clues is gathering the world around you. It's Kim Thulu says the artwork is gorgeous, which I think we should just keep saying every minute and a half. Honestly, not sarcastic, just to appreciate. The same way that the words are delicious, the colors are delicious. Morning Solus just bought it 30 minutes ago. I just finished reading it so I wouldn't be left out today. I'm so glad you're here. Peace is now following. Thank you. Liz Doodles writes down comic to check out later. I want more lore, says Shadows of Life. All of the lore. All right. So we've met who we are going to find out is an important ally here. Citizen of the Cliffs by the Streaking Ice. Yes, all of that is her name. Citizen of the Cliffs by the Streaking Ice, which just everything is delicious. The name is delicious. All of that is her name. She's got very cool hair and pointy ears. I Love Sharp says, I love the way the panels accentuate the story, like you've said. Single splash heightening the detail on the close-up of the body. Followed by the standard panel layout to ground us. Followed by the double-page spread of space. Followed by that zigzagging setup of movement. Yes, we are in motion on this case. The jagged edges are just, first of all, showing us this cool thing and fitting it into the page, along with these conversational panels. But they're also sort of radiating around it because we're headed towards this place. You can even see the movement towards it in this bottom panel. So your eye is tracking all, zigzagging through these, heading up here to the top of the next page. Y'all. The layout, shouts It's Cthulhu. I know. We find out another to talk the police chief. Sorry, peace captain. Down from Panic. Sorry, Panic. There's so much information in there. Their police chief is called a peace captain, which she forgets because she's not from here. And Panic can't really be Panic because at some point here, we are going to learn that the people of this world, of the city enduring, do not have emotions as we know them, or rather their emotions are suppressed. Now, this relates to their history, and it relates to their society, and it is the reason that there hasn't been a violent crime in 500-ish years. And it is something that you have to bear in mind as you meet each of the principal species of this world. Tatsula says, is the chair just a chair, or is it sinister? Will we spend an hour analyzing the chair, checking for traps, rolling to sense motive on the chair? Yo, we might. We might, because the chair's got a little guy in it. We haven't gotten there yet. Arya Flame says, it's odd that emotionless people have poetic names, because poetry is all about emotion. I think that's one of those contrasts that makes this book really fascinating. So many of the details here seem poetic to us. And we also know that, like, they have not always been emotionless. That is a change in their history and their culture. Meaning of Night says, this first issue really grabbed me in a way that other stories I've read in single issues haven't. I'm really invested in this world building and character. There is an art form to an issue 1. It is very, very difficult to craft something that in a few short pages will do everything you need. Establish your world, ask big questions, get you attached to a main character, and leave you hungry for more, while also feeling like a satisfying chunk. That is like an impossible thing to do. And yet people make it look easy. People like Nora Jemisin and Gay Jemisin and Jamal Campbell. Serotonia says, speaking of how to get us hooked, I love our narrator. She's so snarky. And it is funny, we really don't know much about her, but you instantly love her, or at least I do, for the way that she thinks about things. Her little moments of uncertainty and sarcasm and commentary. Full trilogy council on deck, huh? This should be fun. Oh, yeah, actually I forgot. The bottom of this page, which I was distracted by the structure and the layout and the conversations and the movement of your eye, was the first time I chuckled out loud reading this comment. Susan's figuring out the procedure. The politics? Well, that's me now. I'm the brass. Big gap. Yay. There's something incredibly relatable about her lack of desire to be important and have to solve these problems and go meet with a council. She is snarky. It's fun, says Gamer Badger. The real Brainwave says it almost seems like snark is a Green Lantern power, honestly. Many of my favorites. Medium Knight says, yes, suppressed emotions, except everybody is still running hot, which compares to why they had a world-destroying war. Shiny Marigold says, the chair is the big boss. Mikey Glinsky says, a murder mystery? Everything's a trap. Shiny Marigold talks about these suppressed emotions and says, big Vulcan mood. Sorry, mood. Corpse Sandler says, same to the compellingness, so much so that I binged all of it in one go. I'm going to try to make sure I don't mention anything that doesn't happen in issue 1, but call me out if I do. Star Pilot 6 says, it's also so interesting that they seem emotional because body language carries a lot of information. So, like, if someone seems angry, they're not actually angry, but saying this is important or something. I have a lot of questions about how that works. You do want to stop and break down, like, it sure seems like everybody's mad, but I guess they're not feeling the anger, but they're reacting to the knowledge that you're making, that you're irritating them. I don't know. It's fascinating. How does it work? Alf Sharp points out, speaking of Dyson spheres, unfortunately, Freeman Dyson, Nobel-nominated physicist, science fiction enthusiast, and analyzer, person behind the Dyson sphere and many other ideas, did pass away last week on February 28th. Gifted us many idea gifts. Fluffybutt asks, do aliens understand eye rolls? Corpse Sandler says, we haven't met my favorite AT-AT yet. It is, okay, the names of these species, it's so hard to say AT-AT in my head and not giggle or think of Star Wars, which has been anticipated by the narration. The 3 races of the trilogy. That's what the people here call themselves, en masse. The trilogy. A beautiful literary name. The ongoing story in The City Enduring. That's the place. The three races of the trilogy are called the Na. These are the pointy ears that we've identified before. We're going to learn more about them as we go. The Adat, pronounced Adat, don't laugh, says the narration. The symbol of At and the letters AT. And the Ketopli, or Ketopli. Now, you can immediately, because these are so well designed, you can start to identify traits, right? The Adat don't seem to have sort of proper noses as we think of them, and they've got these sort of blurred little check marky, what we think of as digital look to them. Corpse Villagers we suffer 18 months! The Ketopli have, in this case, this guy has little flowers in his hair, and you can't see below his eyes. That's going to be important. The Na has a distinctive outfit design with the gold band here, the marking on his face, his little, I don't know jewelry words, but he's got a thing that goes like a headband with a disc in the front, is very pretty. Now, at first I was like, okay, that's a lot. How will I remember these species? And then as it became clear, as we learned that the Adat, wait, let me make sure it happens in this issue. Yeah, okay. Somebody else refers to the Adat as basically living search engines. They seem to be digital. We find out that the flowers in his hair gentleman, his name is Averus Thorn. Where's the... Averup Thorn. Averup Thorn of the Dry Season Thorns. From the Ketopli homeworld, the Averup Thorn. Well, we'll talk about this. And the Na seemed the most sort of like human-like, biological creatures. So in some ways, the three species here seem to sort of break down to animal, mineral, and vegetable, which is the way I immediately started thinking of them. Obviously not literally animals, because they're very human-seeming aliens, but like in terms of kingdoms, like plant kingdom, digital creature, and some kind of recognizable alien that reminds us of ourselves, as it's going to turn out in this case with sort of wings and pointy ears. Circlet or Coronet, thank you for helping me with words. Circlet, oh, thank you. Zather says human noses are pretty weird, to be honest, even by our own planet standards. Dark of Nate says most of the Adat also seem to have pastel-colored skin, which is interesting. It's Cthulhu says, in theory, to replace emotion, you need to over-exaggerate actions, which really makes for great comic visuals. Medium Knight says, oh, I always called the Star Wars things AT-ATs instead of AT-ATs. That's probably correct. I've always said AT-AT, but who knows if I'm supposed to. Shiny Marigold suggests their emotionlessness might be, like, I don't feel mad, but the situation is such that I should probably be mad, so I'm going to perform anger for you. Aleph Sharp cheered and said, I've just realized the Na are sort of fantasy style. The Na, the Adat are full sci-fi, and the Ketopli are horror, another set of 3 categories. Yeah, because the Na have some sort of, like, pointy ears make us think of elves, so it evokes fantasy tropes. Another way to kind of keep track of the different species here. Mikey Glinsky says, I specifically only bought issue 1, so I didn't have a repeat of Small Gods where I read everything on accident. John Numa loves that she said, don't laugh, which I love as well. It's such a cool bit of a narration. Dark of Nate says, the Na are like cool bird fish people. Obsequious Diphthong says, I think there's one visual from afar in this issue with a Ketopli without the scarf thing, and it does not look pretty. Probably depends on your species, but yeah. Gallifrey DM is now following. What a great name. Morton Solis says, the character design is amazing in these next 3 pages. Absolutely. Mikey Glinsky asks, the classic sci-fi question. Are these their actual names or just the human/English/whatever translation of them? And does that translation influence what type of species they are or vice versa? Or is asking questions simply easier than answering them? We can do both. So Serotonia points out a really interesting interspecies conflict that crops up. I think it's in this issue. I'm going to hope it is because I'm going to address it. It's also interesting to me how seemingly mad the Peacekeepers got when the AT-AT chair member almost referred to them as a meat salad. I'm not quite sure what to think about it because I would expect them not to care or get mad. It is clear that the term is considered disrespectful and that the peacekeeper captain does not appreciate it. It is interesting because it looks to us exactly like someone getting mad. So it's one of the best examples we get in this issue of, like, if you don't have emotions, what was going on there? But I guess it's a quick and strong response to the idea presented by that bad word choice. Gamer Badger said that meat salad made me think of Meat Popsicle from Fifth Element. Mikey Glinsky has got a theory that they didn't eliminate emotions, they just knocked them down to a level comparable to humans. If they had emotions, things would be much worse. Headcanon. We'll see. Shiny Marigold says the Nod Council may not feel smug, but he's projecting it like, whoa. But Ari Flame says, if it was human-level emotion, the Lantern wouldn't be out of place. She definitely doesn't feel like she's having the same experience the rest of them are. Obsequious Tiptongue says, is it weird that my touch point on the architecture in this council room is Atlantis architecture from Aquaman? I feel like there are a lot of similarities between underwater design and space design. So it is interesting to see sort of repeated here. All right. So we get some more names. The names are incredible. The Averip Thorn of the Dry Season Thorns. Here's the story behind that. The Averip Thorn, lowercase, which must be the actual kind of thorn, grew on the Catoples homeworld. Past tense. All these homeworlds are past tense. If the thorns tagged a mammal, they traveled through the bloodstream, took root in an organ, popped out later. Messy. So that's a very dangerous name. It's like, hello, my name is Poison. Messy, but not quite as dangerous as the Catopli themselves. So that's what Alf was alluding to, the sort of horror vibes that we get off of this species, which I love as a contrast to the cute little flowers in his hair. We get AT-ATs, at Blaze of Glory. It is very funny to read this, like, beautifully imagined sci-fi world and be like, you've got Twitter names? But at Blaze of Glory is a fantastic name. Can't wait to find out more about her. I hear she's one of the oldest and most powerful AT-AT. Probably shouldn't have pissed her off. Oh well. We get 2 examples of non-names. Lumiere of the Cliffs by the Wavering Dark. And I don't think we've learned it yet, but we're going to learn part of why those names are so long. The Trilogy Council of Senescal. And Marth of the Sea by the Wavering Dark. Until the Sun Falls. Yeah, and that extra bit of name means he's extra important among his people. But the body language on this guy, very relaxed. That smug vibe we were talking about. So, then we get back to, right, there's been a murder. We should be talking about the murder. Dr. Nate says, holy crap, an entire planet of Twitter avatars. We have several other things that Meat Salad reminds people of. Meat bags from KOTOR. Real Brainwave points out Blaze of Glory. At Blaze of Glory spends most of the council scene looking at a phone analog, too. The social media parallels are very on purpose. John Newman says, also, wow, the color shift in this page with the shift back to murder. Pink and warm. Murder. In this case, blue information. Blue and green. Oh, yes, and we surfed right over the fact that Joe conjures up some chairs, and we have a little spliff, little cute alien guy with a doodle on his head. Susan goes, problem? Joe says, nope. Pops right back out of there. It's got a beautiful little Green Lantern symbol in it. Nice, thoughtful detail. When did we learn Joe's name? I forgot to write that down. Let's see. Get a nice, really creepy silence when Averup casually goes, I mean, obviously one of my people did this, but it's weird that she didn't finish eating him. It's like, okay, yeah. And then we get a first huge piece of, a piece of new information. Counselors, you requested a Green Lantern for the city enduring. You knew this was coming. You damn near told me to expect it. The question that really matters right now, and in my brain as a reader, I'm going, right, the why. And she asked the real question. How do we prevent the next one? Which, just like that next of kin comment, reminds you, right, murders are things that affect people. It's not just fun puzzles for me and my brain in this book. Ugh, I love this. As this, once again, the very personal moment, how do we prevent the next one, zooms right out afterwards to the big picture. Hold up, wait a minute. I'm guessing you're confused. And she starts explaining things to us. Right, Dark Renee says she calls herself Lantern Mullen, but we don't actually get her first name in this issue. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and not call that a spoiler because it's in a lot of the marketing and we'll get it soon. Joe Mullen, a.k.a. Sojourner Mullen, which is a very cool name that I can't wait to dig into, y'all. Mullen apparently is a plant. That's interesting because we have a race of plant people going on here. But mullein, I believe, can be used to make tea. Look, this was me Googling it, being like, what's this name mean? Tea that can potentially, has helpful effects for asthma is what I got out of my quick Google search on mullein. First name Sojourner, which I would imagine is not a coincidental pick. Sojourner Truth is a very famous American figure, for those who might not be as familiar with American politics. She was a speaker and abolitionist, born into slavery in New York at the latter end of the 1700s and lived well through the 1800s. Is famous for a speech, for many things, but especially for a speech that she made at an early women's rights conference in the early 1850s in Ohio. Now, that speech has a couple of different recorded versions. Sojourner Truth's that particularly famous speech. No one alive knows what she actually said. But there are some early accounts, and then about a decade later, essentially, someone else's paraphrase of it went viral, basically, in the early 1860s. And that version, the second version, a decade later, that went viral, is known as the Ain't I a Woman speech. Sojourner Truth stood up at a women's rights conference and basically said, I can work as much as any man. I can eat as much as any man if I can get it. That version seems to be consistent in all the transcripts. And essentially an argument for women's rights, but that acknowledges what we would now call intersectionality, that more than one factor is at work. The later version of the speech that adds Ain't I a Woman adds or potentially includes, we can't know from the original, a bit about, people insist that women are weak and delicate and they lay down coats for them. Well, nobody's laying down any coats for me. Now, we don't know whether that's original to the speech or not. It's a complicated history. But the essential point, what, I don't count, has resonated through 150 years of history and thought since that went down. And, standing up and asking for rights is something that I hope resonates throughout all of history in every time and place. Sojourner, as a hero, I think should be, part of every kid's education, and is a beautiful, beautiful choice, not just for a black female Green Lantern who is breaking new ground in comic book canon, but a sojourn is a journey, right? Or a stay. And a sojourner is someone taking a journey or staying in a place. And this is our Lantern who has journeyed to the far edge, far sector, to stay among people who are very unlike her and try to help them and do her best for justice. So, yep. I love it. John Newman says her name is given in full on the last page, presumably back page in the hard copy. Chapter 1 is what it says right here. Well, it's certainly given in this little DC Nation interview that closes my actual issue. But Dark Knight says, it's complicated. Everything is complicated here. Just skimming back through some comments. Fluffy Butt says, why would there be a next one? 1 in 500 years is an outlier. Yeah, but you can't assume that one, because if there hasn't been 1 in 500 years, you can't assume there won't be another one for another 500 years. You have to start by assuming something has changed. It would be great if it never happened again, but it is smart, especially if you are essentially a space cop, to assume that there's danger. Corpse Handler says, I've been assuming she's been posting reports to Home or the Core, which talks about it's important to who's speaking and who they're speaking to, which is a little bit mysterious because we don't officially know if she's talking to us, the audience, or writing this down for someone. Serotonia says, not knowing Joe's name is so telling, too. Everyone refers to Jo by her last name because she's a guest. She doesn't belong there. She doesn't have any friends to call her by her first name, at least that we've met as we meet this in the first one. Aria Flame says she's out of place, which it appears at least one political faction is trying to take advantage of. Yeah, the creator interview has the page, yeah. Corpse Handler says, a bit spoilery, but there are other things afoot. Alright, we are probably... That was our basic dipping our toes into the first one. We didn't really get to this costume design and how frigging brilliant it is. Putting the logo over on one side is this tiny thing that I love so much because I have gotten recently sort of obsessed with the idea of costume design and how you design for different bodies. And one of the central things with superheroes is having a logo in the middle of your chest. And this is just me, Amy, asking this question for myself. But I have started to wonder if more of the early superheroes had been people with boobs. Taking a moment to state that not all people with boobs are women and not all women have boobs. That's not what we're talking about here. But if more of them had been women or been people with boobs, would we have evolved the giant logo in the middle of chest thing for superheroes? Maybe yes. Maybe no. Maybe it would have looked different. I don't know. I don't have a time machine. And also, we have lots of different cultural contexts for putting a big logo in the middle here. But this choice to put it on one side and fit it into that design is so perfect and so natural and so cool looking. Every tiny thing in this book makes me want to ask a million questions. Doug Nate points out, read the name thing, she's also establishing herself as an authority in this issue. So call her by her proper title, not her given name. Lantern Mullen is her title and her job. It reminds us who she is and how she fits in here. Oh, Ari Flame asks if Dwell is the officer at the beginning and the end. That's a great question. We should check on that. Tatsuda says, the big question remains, who is the little being in the chair? Detective says, wait, Amy, you don't have a time machine? Mikey Glinsky says, the classic what would chairs look like if our knees bent the other way conundrum. Yeah, the what ifs. Those questions ask me. Those questions ask me. What am I trying to say? Fascinate me. Word salad. Different from meat salad. Corpse Seller says, I know for sure we wouldn't have as many incidences of costume boob socks. I think that's a fact. But yeah, the lines and tailoring on her outfit are both retro and futuristic, which I love very much. The colors are classic Green Lantern. The glasses are a beautiful, stylish variation on a domino mask, which is a superhero code. In this case, she doesn't need to hide her identity, so there's no reason they can't be transparent. But, alright. So, we've met a lot of people. We go back to consume the mystery, and spoilers for episode 1. You know that I sure hope there isn't another murder question? Too bad for us. The suspect who is in custody is found super dead right at the end of this issue. We are already into action, jumping into action for whatever's going to happen in issue 2, because this... We can already rule out this there will not be another murder for 500 years thing. Yeah, about that, says Shiny Marigold. Somebody did the thing to the suspect that the suspect did to the other guy, says Meaning of Night. Dark of Night says, when was the last time you saw a murder mystery with only one murder? Alright, so that's it for issue 1 of Far Sector. What are your thoughts on this comic? Are you enjoying it? What do you hope happens if you haven't read ahead in the future? What are your big questions? Corpse Handler says, yeah, the placement of the symbol calls back to badges, too. Absolutely. Symbols of authority placed over the heart. John Numa says, more! Shiny Marigold says, well, now who are we going to pin the killings on? Arya Flame is examining the crime scene. Says, streaks suggest explosion out of body. For me, I couldn't help thinking back to Averup Thorn being named after something that explodes out of an organ. Who knows? Feathers Flight says, it sounds amazing, and I'm going to go buy it this evening. Yay. Zather says, I kind of thought the cherubing was an Easter egg from some other Lantern Corps lore. That's just my first impulsive go-to for odd things like that in an established IP. I'm going to have to check on that. My first instinct was that it's going to be a mystery that evolves over time, but, Shadows of Life wants to talk about the ring lore, because we don't know that much yet. We know that somebody's like, can't you fly? And she's like, yeah, I don't feel like it. That's interesting. Mikey Glinsky says, thoughts. You're going to make me pay for the rest of these issues, aren't you? Not me personally. Down Under Dwarf says, it's so awesome. I need all the comics. Gamer Badger 82 says, or did he? Maybe the second victim only ate the body after someone else killed them. Good theory. Star Pilot 6 says, it's interesting. I like the world building. I haven't read any of the issues after this, but it would get me to keep reading. Obsequious Diphthong says, we can tell the second murderer is a different species than the first. Aleph Sharp is hyped to read more. Leia Sky says, I liked it. A great intro to this comic series. Fuffy Butt says, why is the ring so fancy? And what Earth year is it? Good questions. Meaning Right says, I'm very excited. Can't wait till we read the next issue. Mikey Glinsky says, Chair Alien is the killer. Calling it now. Morton Solis says, I thought it was interesting the way she uses her ring to make accessories like sunglasses and raincoats. John Numa says, it was a fascinating issue, and this is pretty much the perfect place to discuss it right now. Real Brainwave says, I'm enjoying it a lot. I've only got the first 2 issues. I've got 3 on order, and the rest pre-ordered. Aleph Sharp says, my big question is, do you think we'll be returning to this for future book clubs? And should I hold off on reading more than I already have? 2 issues. Can't answer that second one for you, but if y'all enjoyed this, which I hope you did, I absolutely want to come back and do this issue by issue as we go through this series. I hope y'all would be down for that. I want to find out what you think a nice distance between would be. And at some point, obviously, we might catch up. Enigma 6 says, I liked it enough I had to read issues 2 and 3. Gamer Badger's trying to hold off till trades come out. Sorry about spoilers. Mikey Glinsky likes that ring accessory thing. It's a very understated use of a power that's essentially everything. Star Pilot 6 says, also, I wish I had a Green Lantern ring. It would be so helpful. Mikey Glinsky says, using the power of the ring for mundane uses, but not using it for flashy things is some nice characterization. Triyama says, maybe the chair itself is the killer. Alright, I got some yes please, I'm in, I would like that, for the idea that we're going to keep going. Oh, Detective Sen says, I'm still trying to process the idea that Amy doesn't have a time machine. Ixnay on the artiste. Secret Diphthong liked the digital visitor badge at the Peacekeeper Station. Corpse Handler's already read up to issue 4. Alright. Y'all, this was so much fun. I am, shoot. I was so excited about the second part of our stream today, but I think I might have overstrained my voice at the con and at work yesterday, so it's kind of dying out on me, and I might have to postpone King's Quest, guys. Detective Zen says, you are shoot. Alright, how would you all feel about, I'll try to do some fill-in streams here and there, but how would you all feel about all King's Quest next week and 2 weeks for Far Sector number 2? Sorry, I think that's a rude gesture in Britain, but, how would we feel about 2 weeks for Far Sector number 2? Oh, thanks, guys. Drink some tea, take a rest. Yeah, my tea's right here and I've been ignoring it. Works for me? Sounds good? Fantastic. I'm so in love with this series. Thank you so much for sharing it with me, all of you. How often do you just get to be here at the number 1 of a brand new world? Don't ignore the tea, it'll get sad. Alright, so look out for potentially some bonus streams. Definitely Sunday Space Day. Next Thursday, King's Quest. Mikey Glinsky says, thanks for making me read things I never otherwise would have. And 2 weeks from today, what's 5 plus 14? It's 19. 319. We will read the second part. Oh, I don't have it within reach, but number 2 of Far Sector with our Lantern Mullen, who is the coolest and the most stylish. Her hair gives me, like, exaggerated Janelle Monáe vibes, and I love it very much. Sather's trying to help me figure out whether I've made a rude gesture. Very sorry, Brits. Fifth Daughter will be VOD Squad for Sunday. Have a good weekend. Have a great weekend to all of you. It's so great to be back. The con was wonderful. Thank you to everybody who made the hype train today, who subbed and donated. You're all absolutely the best. Tugovinate says she is, in every way, more stylish than Guy Gardner. He's got a look. So yeah, this was a quick one. But let's see who should we visit? Secret Stiffthing says, I feel like stylishness was not the point of Guy Gardner. Geeky Chappy says, sorry back, Amy. I automatically flicked 2 fingers up in return. Well, pretend it's a friendly greeting. Let's read The Only Ryan. We haven't done that in a while. The Only Ryan is a friend via friends like Eric Ishii. A delightful human. Let's see. Yes. Excellent. Donna Dwarf says, bye, y'all. Thanks for introducing me to comics. I appreciate it, but my wallet isn't so enthusiastic. In general, we try to do picks that are available from a library or something else, but this was a fun experiment, and I really, really appreciate it. I will see a bunch of you on Sunday for Sunday Space Day. Thank you, John Numa, Dark of Nate, Crisis, Aleph Sharp, Critter Nation, Corpse Handler, Liz Doodles, Fluffy Butt, Post.S, Gamer Badger, Leia Sky, Geeky Chappy, Mikey Glinsky, Obsequious Diphthong, Triamas, Seratonia, Every Class, Shiny Marigold, Goblin Wars, Key Squared, Dark of Nate. Thank you for the gathering and introducing me to Green Lantern. Feathers Flight, Detective Zen, Geeky Chappy, Meaning of Night, Mgente, Shonda Vitaji, Not a Machine, Green Thing LP. Let's go!